Welcome back, y'all, to Humbled Highs, episode 15. I got to tell you, it's been almost a month since I've gotten back on here. And I've been in a emotional roller coaster this past month. And I decided through some pushing from a few friends that said, hey, why aren't you doing your podcast? And I said, man, I've been going through some things, and my wife encouraged me today, and it just solidified the fact that I need to get on here. I need to talk about my feels and be transparent like I always am. I mean, I'm always transparent. If you listen to these podcasts and you know me, even if you don't, I hope you all think, that's a real dude. And so this thing I've been going through has to do with my mom. And I'm titling this episode, Tough Decisions and Boundaries. So, going back to my early childhood, my parents, they were together for the first few years. That's my car. I don't know why it's doing that, but they were together for a few years. And, my dad was mostly out of the house more than he was in the house. And so most of my life, it was just me and my mom. And my mom, a great woman. She raised me up to love God, to care about people. She'd always tell me, be ye kind one to another. And I would always, roll my eyes. And, she always would quote scriptures to me. She made a way for me to go to a Christian private school through 5th grade. She brought me to church late. We were always late, but she brought me to church and raised me to love God, to care about other people. But something that she did that I didn't like was that she smoked, right? She smoked cigarettes. And my mom, who's 76 right now, she started smoking when she was 13. And she was born in 1948, so, the times were different, There was ads that doctors would encourage you to smoke. You could smoke on airplanes. Everybody in businesses smoked inside. You smoked in your car. You smoked basically everywhere except for inside the grocery store. There was probably some grocery stores you could smoke in. You smoking in restaurants, airplanes, everywhere. Can you imagine today going into a restaurant and them saying smoking or non-smoking? I mean, that's just ludicrous to me, thinking like, how you going to create this wall where the smoke don't go through and I taste it in my food? But as a kid, I didn't have a choice. She smoked in the house, in the car. And I remember, putting up a fight, be like, I don't like the smell of that, and I used to always have, as a child, sinus headaches all the time. And it's no wonder, when I moved away when I was 17 and went to the Navy, I thought it was because I got out of Tennessee that I could breathe, that I didn't have sinus headaches. But it was the fact that I was in a secondhand smoke environment that was causing this. And, I'm going to call myself out because when I was in the Navy, I smoked in order to get the smoke breaks. And I smoked for 5 years, even though I hated it as a child, I did it for a little while, and eventually I developed this this very, very low tolerance for nicotine where I couldn't smoke anymore. And so I quit. Went to a hypnotherapist to curb the addiction. One visit to a hypnotherapist, it was gone. It was out of my life. And ever since then, smoking has been nearly intolerant for me. And I tell a lot of people, I would rather go into a porta potty in the middle of July in a carnival that a trucker just left than be in the presence of somebody that smokes. It to me, it is just, I cannot stand it. And I can just feel my sinuses clogging up when I'm around them. And when I'm in the professional world, when I'm out doing my trucking deliveries and stuff, and I pull up to a business, open that door up, and somebody like thinks it's break time and they light up a cigarette. I mean, I'm I ain't no punk. I'd be like, excuse me, walk your butt over there and finish your break, and then you can come over here and we can work. What are you talking about? I'm like, this is my air. This is my boundaries around me. So you can do your thing, but just go do it over there. And, and I don't even like riding behind somebody in a car that is smoking in front of me with their window down. I got to change the flow of the air in the car to where I can't, I'm not smelling the outside air. It just stinks to me, y'all. It stinks. It makes my clothes stink, and it clogs up my sinuses. So, I'm saying all this, I'm getting to the story. And I'll go one point further. If I'm walking into a grocery store or a retail store and somebody's standing right outside the door smoking a cigarette, you best believe I'm that dude. Now, I won't do that around my wife because she don't like to be embarrassed and doesn't like confrontation. But that's my air. That's your children's air that is walking in and out of the store. And for you to callously think that it's okay to expose everybody else to your secondhand smoke, which is harmful, then I'm the guy that's going to correct you. I'm going to say, walk over there 50 feet away from the door, finish your cancer stick, and then walk in the store. Don't walk all the way up to the door and then just chuck it right in front of the door. Don't walk right out of the store, stop with your shopping cart, and light up a cigarette. Don't do that. You best not do that when I'm alone and I'm walking to the store, because excuse me, walk over there. Thank you. I thought that there was a law in Tennessee that said that you had to be 50 feet away from any doors. But, I don't need a law to tell somebody what's polite and courteous, okay? So, several months ago, I was talking to my mom at her house in Springfield, which is like almost it's an hour and 15 minutes away from where I live. And I noticed that, my mom lives on Social Security. She's got no savings. And her house is starting to fall into disrepair. I told her, I think it'd be a good idea if you sell your house and, we could build a tiny home on the backside of my property with the proceeds. I said, because if your roof caves in, or, not because of weather, but if something happens, your pipes bust, something catastrophic, electrical problem, you can't afford it. You're on a fixed income and you're still paying mortgage, and she's like, that's a really good idea. Will you help me? And I was like, I'll help you every step along the way. So I talked with my wife, and, having your mother-in-law stay on your property back behind your house isn't ideal for a lot of marriages, and I understood that. But her mother is almost in the same position. Her mother lives with, my wife's mother lives with her mother, my wife's grandmother, and that house has fallen into disrepair. Now, when my wife's grandmother passes away, that house goes to my wife's mother, and she'll be in the same exact position. Very low income, no savings, no ability to steward the house, which is no fault. It's just fact. And so I told my wife, I said, listen, my mom's 76. She may only have 10 years left, maybe 15. But if we build this tiny home with my mom's money, then when she passes on, your mom can move in. And she said, okay, you'd have my mom live here? I was like, yeah, you'd have my mom live here. So let me go back to my mom and talk to her. So I talked to my mom, and my wife knows that my mom smokes in her house, and whenever we go over there, we leave the house. My wife's got long hair. She's like, it's all in my hair, it's all in my clothes. As soon as we get home, we gotta, take a shower, because that stuff just it don't just wash off with body spray. It sticks to you. And my wife, and I was talking, and we came to an agreement. We said, all right, I'm going to go back to my mom, and I'm going to put down just one condition. That is that we'll build this tiny house on the property, but you can't smoke in the tiny house. You can smoke outside on a porch that will also have with it. And I went back to my mom, and my mom said she agreed. She said, okay, I can smoke outside. And, she did make the point. She's like, but I'm building this house with my money. I said, yes, but it's also on my property. And in a few years, you're going to get to a point where I'm going to be inside that house caring for you, changing your diaper, bringing you food, doing your laundry, all this. And I'm going to be inside that house. And I don't have to be in a smoky environment anymore. And I said, if I agree to care for you at the end of your life, can you agree not to smoke inside that house? So that way, when I'm in there, it's going to be clean air that I'm breathing. And when you pass it on to my wife's mother, we don't have to do smoke abatement and change the paint and get it all bleached out, And she agreed. I made all the arrangements. We got the house on the market, got a good price. And my wife and I started this long process of selling all the stuff in her house that she didn't need, having a big estate sale, setting up a tent, and then after that we spent weeks going up there on the weekends, packing her house box by box. My mom was working too, doing it as well. And I took about 10 days off of work and worked every single day, driving an hour and 15 minutes up there, packing everything, packing. I couldn't have done it without my mom and with my wife especially. Moving day came, and I moved my mom to her best friend and her best friend's husband's house just a few minutes away from where she lived in Springfield. And so the moving day went perfect. All this stuff was lining up perfect. I got 5 different estimates for this tiny home, and finally got the tiny home down to being built for $80,000. And my mom was going to have $115,000 left over from the home sale after paying her mortgage, and all that. So she would have had $35,000 left over after the tiny house was built. And with her Social Security, she would have no bills for the rest of her life and been able to live back here comfortably. It was like 450 square foot tiny house. We have the plans done, everything. The move day came, it went perfect. I got a couple students that I counsel helped. Got her storage units just down the road from where I live. 2 storage units. And she starts living with her friend. This is like maybe 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. She starts living with her friend. And my mom, she's been isolated in her home by herself for nearly 20 years. No community at church, just alone at her house. She's got her best friend up there in Springfield, and they hang out, maybe once a week, but really no community, no outside relationships. And I've been strongly encouraging her to go to church for many years, but it's not something she feels like she could do. Anyway, she's living up there for just a week, and she's very, very discontent with her living situation there, finding it very difficult to get along with her best friend and her best friend's husband. They gave her a bed and a bedroom and a bathroom to use while she's there. All they asked was for her food stamp money every month, which is like $150. So basically staying there rent free while her tiny house was being built. It was going to take like 4 months for this tiny house to be built. But I noticed there was this change that started happening once she left her house. And it makes sense that a lot of the things that were in control of her life were now out of control. And this discontentment started to arise. She said it was a spiritual battle as she moved in because the house she's staying at, not very spiritually. They don't have a strong relationship with God. Her best friend's husband is an atheist and speaks out against God. And so she just feels like she's in a spiritual battle there, which I can see that's perfectly rational. And it seems like every single day we were talking, it was just negative comments about her living situation. And, I was trying to encourage her to be grateful because she's staying there for free. And, it's like I felt like everything up to this point was going perfect. It felt like God's hand was on this. The house sale went perfect. The packing went well. The selling of her stuff went well. And we moved her to a friend's house that went well. Seemed like everything was going smooth. The tiny house was being set up. The price was good. We went from $150,000 on the first bid down to $80,000. And this was a really good contractor. I signed the contract in my name to have this house built. Now, it was my mom's money that was going to pay for it, but my name went on that. This is my property, Then in this conversation that I had with my mom, as I noticed her anger's building, this change of control, and she says to me on the phone with this tone of a challenging tone, she said, "What are you going to do if I smoke in that house? Are you going to kick me out?" And I was just, my jaw dropped. I didn't know how to even respond. And I don't even remember what response I gave to her. I think I said, I gotta talk to you later, because when you make an agreement with somebody, your yes is your yes. And before I packed box number 1, before we put her house on the market, my mom agreed to me and to my wife, I will not smoke in that house. I will smoke outside on the porch. That was the only condition. And we live in the country, y'all, so I feel like we were still making a sacrifice because we've got a cow field pretty close, and to be real, we can smell it when a cow goes to the bathroom. It's that clean of an air out here in the country. So every time my mom would go out here and smoke a cigarette, we would smell it. And I already told you my disdain from it. But that was I felt like a small sacrifice that I was making. But my mom challenged me in that statement that she made. What are you going to do? You gonna kick me out? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do now. I made this whole agreement with my wife on the condition that my mom wouldn't smoke in there. And then now my mom is telling me, basically, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you can't stop me. And I don't take to challenges very well. I usually push back against them. And so it left me in this position of thinking, she's gonna smoke in there, and then that's gonna pit me against my wife. Not since I was a parent was I ever responsible for somebody else's actions. If your kid acts up in school, you're responsible for their actions. If they break into some cars, you're financially responsible. If they get in trouble with the law, you're financially responsible to pay the fines. But when your mother, as an adult, breaks a promise, I am now responsible to my wife for my mom's behavior. And I tell you, in the economy of God, My marriage comes first and foremost. That relationship is the top relationship on this earth. Eternally, my relationship with God is more important than any other relationship. It's God, my wife, my family, my friends, my church, all that stuff. But my wife comes first. And I felt like if she moves here and I'm going in there and taking care of her, and I come in the house and I smell like smoke, I'm immediately pitted against my wife. So I didn't know what to do. So I started seeking counsel from other people. I started trying to get advice from people that are wiser than me, Christian people, all kind of people, friends. I've got a friend who's a Christian psychologist, and just telling them the situation. I'm praying like, God, show me what I'm doing wrong, because I don't know what to say to my mom at this point. And I'm getting all kind of advice. One person saying, let her smoke in there, but just never go in there and help her again. I'm like, oh, well, no, because I made the promise to my wife. I can't break those terms of agreement. I know what some of y'all are saying. She's paying for that tiny house. Yes, she's paying for the tiny house, but it's on my property. And I would have never done this if she had said in the very beginning, I'm going to smoke in there, or I might smoke in there. I would have said, well, we're going to have to figure something else out. So I was, I'm praying to God, like, help me, give me wisdom, give me direction in this. Show me what I'm doing wrong. Am I not giving her grace? Do I need to go back to my wife and renegotiate this whole thing so that my mom can be happy? Because she's now sold her home, and now I'm thinking of canceling this whole thing, and I don't know what my mom's going to do, which caused me a lot of stress. Like I want what's best for my mom, and I don't know what to do at this point. My friend who's a psychologist, he's like, it's going to come between you and your wife, and you can't have that. One friend was like, you should just let her smoke in there, and, you just have to accept it. And I'm like, I can't do that. Then one day I'm making a delivery in a residence, and this is 75-year-old man. And I'm so twisted. I'm just like getting advice from all kind of people. And I told him the story, and he told me a story. He said, when my dad died, he left us a bunch of money, and it came between me and my brother and my sister. And he said, what I'm going to tell you to do, you're not going to like. He said, but you need to have your mom write a contract and have her sign it, that if she smokes in there, then you will evict her. I said, man, that sounds cold. He said, no. Whose decision is it to smoke in there? I said, it'd be hers. And I said, okay. He said, that's the only way to preserve your marriage. And I thought about it. And this old man, he was Christian, and I could tell that he knew that if I pursued this and just tried to trust my mom, that it was going to go south. And I went back to my mom and I brought up the conversation, and she basically tried to twist the words, saying, I just wanted you to tell me I accept you as I am. I wasn't going to smoke in there. And I said, no. The tone of your voice was a challenge. And this has to do with the control that you want on your life. She said, you do want to control my life. And I said, no, I don't. I said, there was only one condition to this. And she's like, yeah, I'll smoke out there. And she's kind of cursing me, and so I'm going back and forth thinking, okay, I'll trust her. A couple weeks goes by, and she says, do you think a bed will fit out on the patio? The patio, we're going to build a covered porch outside this tiny house. And she said, do you think a bed will fit out there? And it was another one of those challenge points to me. And I said, Mom, there's no heater. There's no air conditioner out there. You're telling me is you're going to sleep outside? She's like, well, I don't want to be shuffling around the house trying to get outside to smoke. I said, it's 400 square foot. It's not a mansion. What are you talking about? This is crazy. She said, I'll just put a heater out there. I said, you think in the wintertime I want you to freeze to death because you want to smoke outside? She's like, it seems reasonable. I can't have a bed outside. I was like, it's not that you can't. It's that it's ludicrous for you to sleep outside when you have a bed inside because of an addiction. Well, you're not going to let me smoke inside. I said, Mom, I wouldn't have done this whole thing if you wouldn't have agreed in the beginning. And she said, well, I would prefer a covenant rather, and I said, a covenant is not between two people. It's between you and God. And man, it was just getting heated. My mom and I were arguing back and forth, and I just didn't know how to tell her that I wanted it on paper. And so a few weeks ago, I brought up what she said to try to let her know my perspective, how I was fearful, how I had my doubts, and that I felt like she was going to do it, going to smoke in there. And she cursed me. She said, I'm not going to effing smoke in there. And I said, okay, I want to believe you, but I want it on paper. And before I said that, I said, I believe God gave me an answer to my prayers and gave me some information. He told me about the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Now, God told them there was one thing that they couldn't do. They couldn't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he said, on the day that you do that, you will surely die. And Adam told Eve that. Eve got deceived by the serpent, and she ate from that tree. And then God comes in, and he said, what did you guys do? And he said it to Adam first. And he said, yeah, I ate the apple, but it was the woman, that you gave me. And he said, did you eat of the tree? And she said, it was the serpent. And he said, because you've done this, you're going to have to leave here. Because if you eat of the tree of eternal life, you'll live forever in sin. So he kicked him out. So what God was telling me is that it was Adam and Eve that kicked themselves out of the Garden of Eden. It wasn't God. It was their actions. And when I told my mom that story, she got pissed. She said, so you think you're God and I'm Eve? And I said, no, I'm just trying to tell a parable that there are consequences. And I only had one condition to this. So she's like, so what are you telling me? And I said, I want it in a contract. She said, so you're going to kick me out? I said, no, you're going to kick yourself out. And she was livid, dude. She was pissed. And maybe rightfully so, maybe not. I'm not still 100% sure. But she basically said, I don't think this is going to work out. I said, I don't think it is either. I called the contractor and I said, well, I'm going to have to cancel the contract. Luckily, he didn't back charge me because he hadn't really even started to work. It had been less than a month since I signed the contract. So that was that. It was one of the toughest things that I've had to do. But, and I'm still not sure it's for the best for my mom, but I can't be responsible for somebody else breaking promises that I made. And I'm not going to put my marriage at risk because somebody has an issue with control. I don't want to control my mom. I wanted to provide her with a good life. But I think the terms of it were a little too tough. Talking with a bunch of people really helped me out in this tough decision, and there's steps to making godly decisions. When we're faced with choices, we have the God-given will to make decisions. No one can take away your ability to decide. Even if your last decision leads to your death, it's still your choice. A wise decision is one made with thoughtful action. That's wisdom. Thoughtful action. It's not some old man with white hair giving advice. It's thought in action. So what thoughts? I wanted God's thoughts, How do I know the right path to take, the right decision to make? God knows that, and I wanted to do the right thing. So I prayed for guidance. I asked for God's perspective on the issue. In James, it says, now, if any of you lack wisdom, he should ask God, who gives it generously without criticizing, and it will be given to him. And Solomon said, the one who trusts in himself is a fool, but the one who walks in wisdom will be safe. On the important decision in life, you need the absolute truth and guidance. You gotta get the facts. And Solomon said, every sensible person acts knowledgeably, but a fool displays his stupidity. How stupid to decide before knowing the facts. You need to ask this question, what do I need to know before making this decision? And I asked a lot of people for advice. You got to talk to someone who has made a similar decision. Talk to someone who knows your strengths and weaknesses. For who should wage war with sound guidance? Victory comes with many counselors. People make decisions in two very different ways. Either gaining experience through poor decisions, which is time wasting and costly, or learning from the experiences from other people. This is either the fool's way or God's way. I don't have time to learn everything through personal experiences. I don't have the money to cover all the mistakes I make myself. I don't have the time to ruin my marriage over a bad decision. So it's important that if you're wise, you won't try to learn everything firsthand. You'll ask for advice. It's faster and easier. And I'd rather actually be wise than appear wise, rather than this be an ego thing. Solomon said, get good advice and you will succeed. And I calculated the cost. And every decision in life, it has a price tag. And the cost is your time, your money, your reputation, your talent, and even your marriage. You got to count the cost before you make the decision. Solomon said it's a trap for anyone to decide something rashly and later regret it. It's a trap to make a commitment without considering the cost of that commitment. It's okay if someone asks you to make a commitment and you say, I need time to decide. If they need an answer immediately, the best response is no. If you aren't given time to make a wise decision, you most likely will make a costly one. The right decision needs to be an informed one. Jesus said, for which one of you wanting to build a tower doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost and see if he has enough to complete it? Is it worth it? There's always a price tag to our decisions. Then you got to prepare for problems. Expect the best in faith, but also prepare for the problems that are coming. A sensible man watches for problems ahead and prepares to meet them. The simpleton never looks ahead and suffers the consequences. The wise person recognizes that there's going to be problems with every decision. Why? Because there's something wrong with every decision. We live in an imperfect world where nothing works perfectly, so there will be problems. Problem preparation doesn't mean solving it in advance. You simply must know it's coming. If you try to solve all the problems before the decisions, that decision will not be made in faith and trust in God. What could go wrong? What are the unintended consequences of this decision? I tried to look forward to see what would happen if. And then you got to face your fears. Fear is the root of all indecision. It's fear that will make mistakes. It's fear that you will fail. It's fear that you will be responsible and to blame. It's fear that you will embarrass yourself and someone will reject you. It's fear of a commitment that you can't keep. It's always fear that keeps you from being decisive. Solomon said, if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. Perfection paralyzes potential. The basic decisions of life must be made in the middle of a storm. You'll never have a perfect time to do what God wants you to do. You must overcome fear. Faith is the antidote to your fear. You must move against fear. Step into the Red Sea and watch it open. It doesn't open until you take the first step. If God is for us, who can be against us? He leads us on the right paths, and you can trust him to follow his plan in our lives. It's the easiest plan, the path with the least resistance. God's plan for us will never leave us at a dead end. So I'm at this point where my mom and I are not getting along. And reconciling relationships is a top priority in my life. And I don't know where to go from this. Some of y'all listen to this may think, he's a real jerk for not letting his mom just stay there with her own money. It was going to be her house. Yeah, but the decision that was made in the beginning was a commitment. And when that changed based upon, what are you going to do if I smoke in here? Are you going to kick me out? It changed the whole parameters of it. We are not a people of yes and no. We are a people of yes, yes, and no, no. Let your yes be yes, and let your no be no. And I will not put my marriage at risk over the responsibilities of another person. I cannot do that. So I want your feedback on this directly. So I want you to @ me, bro. I'm going to give my personal email address. And you can unload whatever you want on me. I don't care. My email address is akirkland615 @Yahoo. That's AKIRKLAND 615 @Yahoo. I'd love to hear you. Your positives, your negatives, your opinion. I mean, what's done is done. I can't go back and change it now. I'm just going to help my mom go forward and try to figure out the best for her life when it's in her control. I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate you letting me get my feels out. Know that I love you and God loves you.